So, while we welcome the next speakers to the stage, I just want to pick up on a couple of those themes. We have a one-shot chance to change things, and that makes a really good rallying cry for this conference. Some of the other keywords I picked up there was revolutionary. I think actually Russell was quite modest about how revolutionary the technology was, but there's no doubting how revolutionary the transformation is. And I think it's what's really impressive about the work we're seeing here is we're seeing transformation in public sector, in government, with that huge inertia, and we're seeing huge success in that. Other keywords were around massive capacity, platform as enabler. This has to have beauty as well. And also interesting, the reference to Estonia, a country that lacked that legacy and that inertia, and therefore was able to go further in the digital transformation. I think in the conference today, with our theme of tools for unknown futures, starting as we have in government and in Whitehall, we're going to move over through places like Estonia, beyond Estonia to some imaginary lands north of the North Pole, where we're going to really explore the potential of platforms for culture and society. But before we get there, we're going to complement the view from government with some views from some other platform makers. If I can welcome to the stage, please, Rayns from Raspberry Pi, Alex Gluhak from Intel, and Tomas Diez from Smart Citizen. Before we set off, I'm going to briefly make a quick announcement. This panel is inspired by two things. Firstly, one of the key drivers for this conference theme and tools for unknown futures was really a chance to reflect on the impact of open source platforms that have really had such huge impact. Platforms created and maintained by open source communities of artists and developers. And that's one of the key focus, and we've got two bottom-up platforms represented here. The other came out of last year and the theme of smart citizens, and one of the calls then was that we need to develop platforms and we need greater collaboration. We need to get beyond a binary of bottom-up versus top-down. We need greater collaboration. And we're delighted to announce here to you today the launch of a new data platform in Manchester. The platform is Smart Citizen, that Tomas is going to speak about. And FutureEverything with Intel are launching Smart Citizen in Manchester. Smart Citizen is the world's largest independent grassroots data sharing platform. Manchester will be only the third city in the world to have a focused smart citizen community. Anyone, anywhere around the world can join the smart citizen community, but we want to put a focus on growing a local community in Manchester because there's certain things you can do at city scale if you have a critical mass of people collaborating in one place as part of a global community, collaborating around the data, around the platform itself, and around applications making use of that data. So we're absolutely delighted to announce the launch of this. As I say, anyone can join the community we're going to hear about. But in Manchester, we're giving away some free kits. And there's a training event on the 6th of May, and anyone in Manchester who can commit to being an active member of this community, and that means keeping them online, sharing your data, joining in that international community. We invite you to join us as we kickstart and launch, not Kickstarter, but start. I keep saying that. We launch a Manchester Smart Citizen community. So on this panel, we have three different representatives from different organizations, and we have three different perspectives. Rayns is the champion and the representative of the arts community at the Raspberry Pi Foundation. The Raspberry Pi Foundation has been one of the huge successes of the last 2 years. It's put thousands of low-cost computers in the hands of people, and Rachel's going to speak from the perspective of an artist, what it means to have access to this platform, what the potential is, how we can create with these platforms. Alex is here from Intel and one of the partners in the launch of the Smart Citizen Network, and Intel are also providing some of their sensors, so we have a combination in practice of the industrial and the citizen, which is exactly what we had a call for last year. And Alex is going to be speaking about how we can build a public Internet of Things, how we can make platforms accessible to people and to citizens. And to open this session, I'm delighted to introduce the founder of the Smart Citizen platform from Barcelona Fab Lab, Tomas Diez. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today, not only participating in the launching of Smart Cities in Manchester, but also being able to present a little bit of where this idea came from and a little bit of my reflections around in which moment are we today and where the future could be. No? I'm an urbanist, and I've been working the last 8 years in a fab lab, a fabrication laboratory surrounded by 3D printers, laser cutters, machines to make circuit boards. So out of this kind of very weird combination, some ideas came or arise. No? So as an urbanist, I've always been wondering about cities, no? And how they work, how they function, and how we can improve them. But beyond that, I'm really interested in how cities has been changed and also how humans in cities have been transformed thanks to technology. No? And just quickly thinking about it, we can see how the printing press actually powered the Renaissance. It kind of ended up the medieval times and started the Renaissance. The steam machine powered the Industrial Revolution. We are in the heart of that. And the radio and the oil discovery power the modern life. No? Out of that, the creation of that modern life, we have created this, let's say, no? A kind of standardized world with everything is produced the same everywhere in the world. And basically, you just have to pick up stuff from the choices that are given to you, right? And, out of that Renaissance, it seems that this is what we are creating. No? This is our kind of second Renaissance after the Magdalenizations of our society. What is really interesting to see is that which are the new views of the future. And I don't see that different, the guy from the right, from this girl, in which we are trying to imagine technology that are replacing actually human power. No? This is one example of Google Glass, the other example of Boston Dynamics, which is actually Google as well now. Robots doing human tasks, let's say. And, flying drones bringing you stuff while you are sitting in your sofa without moving from your house. No? So I wonder if we are really in the moment of think about the future and what it means thinking about the future. And maybe thinking about the future is an idea of the past. No? So some people, 100 years or so, did this kind of drawings, imagining what it would be the life in the year 2000. You can imagine many of the people predicted. I remember when I was a child that we were supposed to have flying cars by the moment. No? But I actually think that the future is basically now. No? We are now in the moment in which computation and internet are powering the contemporary life in real time. No? And it has been fun in the last 10 years. We have created the tools to make that possible. Actually, we became producers of information, and we have been able to really create a huge amount networks of knowledge. And, sometimes we don't use it properly. We use these tools basically to take pictures of our food and to share it. And I think we are basically in a moment in which these tools are not anymore to to show how special are you. It's actually to demonstrate how useful you could be. No? And of course, there are also good examples, as you know. No? But as I said before, if personal computers and the internet are creating let's say the future today, imagine that you put on top of that the ability of manufacturing everywhere and anytime. No? And at the same time that Facebook was created, some other tools were created as well, like Arduino, like an open prototyping platform for anyone to build their own electronics projects. The RepRap 3D printer, the University of Bath, a machine that can reproduce itself. And actually, RepRap was the one that really lowered the cost of 3D printers in the world. And then at the same time, what's really interesting is also the Fab Labs, which actually you have one of those here in Manchester, which are these places I was talking about at the beginning of my talk. Is just maybe could be as big as this space, just surrounded by machines and people collaborating and making stuff. Not only with 3D printers, but actually with machines to make almost anything, from a microcontroller from a circuit board to an entire house, right? So some people are saying that these are the foundations of the third industrial revolution, being able of making anything, anywhere, in an open, a collaborative way. No? So the thing is that we are not only having access to tools to improve our life, but we're actually having access to tools to make our own tools. And this is where actually a smart citizen is being born. Wow. Magic moment. So how many will be? Okay, thank you. So basically, within the Fab Lab Barcelona, we created a tool to capture data about the city. We were really annoying or using commercial solutions. Some of them were really expensive. Some of them were really not compatible if you put all of them together. So we say, okay, we want to have a tool that actually, that help us to make visible the information of a city that is not visible. Actually, to help us to sense the city, to get, let's say, that layer of our surroundings that we cannot see or we cannot perceive in a very clear way, and also provide the tools for citizens to participate in the production of their city, against the idea of a smart city in which big corporations and governments say we're going to create a new infrastructure and basically we're going to deliver services to the citizens. We actually think that those services could be really created by the citizens themselves with the available tools, right? And of course, it should be open source. Basically, as being a tool, it should be able to be hackable and modifiable. So we think that having this information into the city could help to people to change their behavior and transform their environment. So once the environment is transformed, then the measurements that are being taken are changing again. So it's an infinite loop of behavior change, data capturing, and distributing and making sense or making meaning out of this information. So in order to do this project, we actually didn't have funds. So what we did is actually put together with these really weird images, we make a crowdfunding campaign, and we raise in a very local crowdfunding platform called Goteo that is basically based in Spain. We raised close to 14,000 euros. And with that money, we actually create the initial team. Guillem is going around setting up kits. You will meet him later. To actually develop what we call the smart citizen, right? So this is actually one of the very first prototypes we did. And this was only 12 months ago, more or less. So with that prototype and looking a little bit better, we actually went to Kickstarter. And in Kickstarter, we raised $68,000 in 30 days. And with that $68,000, we actually created the project that we said the people that we were going to create, which is basically a hardware kit that anyone can put in their homes, and it's low cost, it's around 150 euros, and then basically it will capture data about your environment related to temperature, humidity, the quality of the air, the sound, and so on, but not about your house. It's actually about the public space that actually your house is facing to. No? So this idea of public data is actually associated with the public space, and the public space is actually yours as well. So today we have around 528 kits all around the world, And we have so far, maybe a little bit more now, but around 84 million, let's say, registered values in the platform. This is how it looks today. The smart citizen is being, let's say, spread worldwide. And actually, this is generating a community, no? A community that right now, if you see, they are complaining a lot. which is okay. I mean, what we see is that we are not creating a product. It's under construction. So actually the community itself or people that get the sensor in their house is actually debugging with us the project, which means that it's a project that is alive. It will continue growing. We will continue making improvements in the hardware. We will continue making improvements in the platform and so on. So that's related with some of the challenges we have, which are the ones that will join the community in Manchester, we have to say this: we are working in better sensors. The ones that we have now, they can be calibrated, but we have to work together. We are creating tools for better participation of people and creating more engagement in relation with keeping those sensors online and contributing to the community, and also making meaning out of that data, and also making it useful to do your everyday life. I will close with some facts that to tell you where we have been. Remember that I said that we were against the smart city concept promoted by corporations. Well, this is like, this is being in the house, this is being in Mordor. This is John Chambers, president of Cisco, featuring Smart Citizen in the Internet of Things World Forum last year. We won the innovative initiative in the Smart City Expo in Barcelona last year as well. We are delighted to have created with the Amsterdam Smart City Initiative the first deployment of sensors in the city, which is now ongoing. And actually, of course, very happy to have the support of FutureEverything and Intel to basically building the Internet of Things, being the Internet of everything, but also the Internet of everyone. No? So it should be owned by the people, the Internet, and be used in a useful way, if I have to say. So I think that's it. Thank you. Shall I use this? Presentation here? Okay, cool.
Okay, so thank you. Drew, first of all, for having us here and inviting me. I'm delighted to be here in front of you. I think today I will be looking at an emerging tool that I've been also working for the last 7 years as part of the research community. It's the Internet of Things. And I think this is something that will have profound impact on all aspects of our society. And I think we are currently somehow at a crossroads in this Internet of Things development. So people have big corporations are starting to see value in it and trying to understand as well the power of its vision. And they're starting to create their own, what I call corporate Internet of Things. I think at the same time you have some bottom-up initiatives like that ones of Tomas emerging. And I think if we are able to ensure that what we are creating is something for the public good, something that is has an impact, a profound impact to the whole society, it has to be inclusive. And so my talk will be a little bit about trying to motivate that we should actually start working together, fostering bottom-up approaches in order to create something what I call a public Internet of Things. Okay. So, I mean, I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the term. Everyone has potentially a different vision of what the Internet of Things is. But my take on it is that we are actually building currently what I call the nervous systems of our future society. And so the Internet of Things will be able to, through sensors at the edges, embed everything what is happening in the real world and make it available to processes and agents in the digital world. And at the same time, it will allow these processes to influence the real world through actuators, through other I/O devices, citizens, and through it basically be able to steer and change processes that are happening on our planet. And so the IoT itself is will become at some point a point where we cannot anymore distinguish between that something in the real world has happened because of a human doing it or because a machine or, like, let's say, a software process doing it. So it will really merge the real and physical world and bring it together into one. And it's a quite powerful construct that we can use for different things. So we can use it to understand what is actually happening in the real world better, and also being able to influence the real world in a much more efficient way. How we actually, for instance, deal with the scarce resources that we have on our current planet. Something like utilities, water, things as well like the crowded places in our cities, transport. How can we solve this kind of daily problems? And it will also lead to new transparencies in a way that it will empower citizens to know what is happening, to influence policy making, as well as it will give the ability as well for policymakers to understand the impact of certain policy decisions. And as we are moving now from a, let's say, manufacturing to a service to a knowledge economy, knowledge will represent power. And everyone who can understand how to use the Internet of Things well will have a very big competitive advantage in the future. So let's look maybe at some corporate Internet of Things that are currently emerging. And obviously, and just picking Google as an example, because I think it is one of the most powerful ecosystems currently emerging. So it started off with let's say, more only digital world footprint, trying to make information accessible to us through search, but slowly expanded its ecosystem to cover different things. So Google now can capture our intent through searches, also our intent where we want to travel through lookups in Google Maps. It knows whom we are connected with, it knows our communications, and obviously also it knows on what things we click and we'd like to see. At the same time, it has recently developed as well a set of new offerings and services that are more embedded in the real world. So things like starting off with the Android platforms, which are now pervasive in everyone's pocket, over to things in the home like the acquisition of Nest. It is able to capture actually what is happening in our homes on the go. And soon we will be basically driving Google cars, and we will be able, and Google will actually be able to see what we are seeing through Google glasses. And obviously it's a tremendous power. It's a tremendous, let's say, knowledge base that is being created. But it would be nice to exploit this knowledge base for society. However, we will rely on the mercy of Google to release this information to us. So obviously, with people currently positioning themselves in this power game, this is a provocation, okay? So obviously Intel is basically the largest chip manufacturer in the world. We have the ability to influence everything that computes. Should we also strive to create such a corporate Internet of Things? And obviously each piece of silicon that we're creating, we could, for instance, embed a little bit on the surface of it some sensing and reporting capabilities. So we can actually go one layer deeper down, as Google can do, and gather opportunistic information that is valuable from everything that embeds a chip in the world. And obviously, we have also sufficient computing power to build one of the biggest, largest clouds in the world and mine this information and exploit it for data. But is this really a vision that we should strive for? Is this really something that we should try to build and exploit? And so actually, I'm not believing in this vision, and I don't think Google believes in it. Intel believes in it either. And I think what I would like to see emerging is a public Internet of Things, one where the Internet of Things becomes a public good for society, like water, like the air that we breathe. We should be able to exploit the Internet of Things and also have fair access to the Internet of Things. And it should basically not be just a tool for elites, but one that basically allows us to participate and also everyone to kind of take advantage of it. And so you need a way of being able to involve citizens. You need a way of being able to offer these opportunities as well to exploit real-world knowledge and the powers of the Internet of Things for every SMEs, social innovators. Only then you will be able to foster the real power of it for society and accelerate as well as pace. So what we are doing at Intel is trying to co-create actually the Internet of Things together with citizens, with the government, with bright academics, and as well with other private sector partners. So this approach that we call quadruple helix is something that we are kind of believing in, and we are kind of trying to implement as well in the way we approach creating the Internet of Things itself. And at the same time, we offer tools as well for the makers. For instance, we've recently released boards such as the Galileo. It's an Arduino-compatible board that can be exploited as well by the larger community. And there are new offerings emerging, such as the Edison and other tools in the pipeline that will provide basically people with ideas, people that would like to create some possibility to create it. Maybe just looking at this quadruple helix approach in action. So I'm part of the Sustainable Cities Lab of Intel in London. And here we work together alongside the Future Cities Catapult, partners like UCL and Imperial, to create or co-create sustainable city experiences of the citizens. And I mean, similar as well to what Thomas highlighted, we look at how can the Internet of Things be used to acquire useful information from the city. How can we actually make this acquisition or co-create this acquisition? How can we interpret this information in a meaningful way? And how can we engage citizens to build, to be part of it, but at the same time as well to engage as well in responding to things that we emerge, like in terms of more sustainable behavioral patterns. And our approach of co-creation is at multiple levels. So it's about co-creating maybe infrastructure, so by sharing, for instance, our resources to acquire information in the city, but also to carry around information in the city. It's also about co-creating tools and knowledge that allow you to exploit this information that you do. It's also co-creating urban services. As an example of our approach is London Living Labs that we've recently created. And here we work on different projects across London where we deploy actually a real sensor kit around together with the Future Cities Catapult and different basically borers in London. And we explore different challenges they have and involve also citizens in the design process itself. So we look, for instance, at air quality aspects of Enfield and how we can basically raise the awareness of air quality and how can this influence travel behavioral patterns. We look at, for instance, as well, the impact of parks in cities, what role they should have, and what's the impact of the city on the park ecology and the other way around. We also explore the Internet of Things as educational tools. So we have projects where we work together with schools and see how we can enhance the curriculum through providing real understanding for the Internet of Things and be able to kind of expand upon it with real-world learnings. I think looking ahead is that although we have now a lot of tools emerging, for instance, such as platforms that Thomas is building, platforms that other like Arduino communities are building, or the Raspberry Pis. We need to ensure that we somehow join our efforts together and merge towards, let's say, a more holistic vision into it. And I think what we need to create is how can we grow this type of systems into something that will provide the foundations of a public, open Internet of Things. And we need to create tools around this that are able to enhance these platforms actually beyond just, let's say, creating something local, but something that has also a bit more global value. And so in essence, we need to create a sort of playing field for society. As the large corporates are creating their own private IoTs, how can we create our public IoT? And I think the example like working together with initiatives such as the one of Thomas shows that we need to foster the thinking more around this and try to push this bottom-up initiatives into more something coordinated that has maybe a more global impact. So I would like to finish my talk just with one slide, with two thoughts. I mean, one thought is, okay, as we are building these tools, we need to somehow try to believe into a bigger picture and try to understand how our work fits into the work of others. So what are the common visions that we need in order to build something that becomes something more powerful and bigger? And also I think we are for sure that the large corporations are building their private walled gardens, Internet of Things. So it's our responsibility somehow as well to respond to this and try to steer the creation of a public Internet of Things where every stakeholder can be part of. And I think as far as history is concerned, we have to take the future in our own hand often in order to build something that embeds really the values that we believe in. Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. So I guess I'm coming in from a bit of a different perspective. What I'm going to do is briefly talk about the Raspberry Pi, and then I'm going to talk about why I'm here and why I'm involved, and then basically what I plan in future. So I guess what I'll start off with is, does everyone know what the Raspberry Pi is as a board? Can we raise hands? Okay, loads of you. Okay. And do you know what we do as an organisation? Not so many, okay. So I guess I'll start off by saying we're actually an educational charity that happens to make computers. And we're a staff of about 12-ish now, kind of 12 to 20, so we're still very small. We've been around for around 2 years now. The initial kind of, well, the purpose was that Eben Upton and co. was working at the Cambridge Computer Lab in the University of Cambridge, and they were seeing that actually the people that were coming from A-level and applying to do the graduate studies there didn't have the same calibre of skills as they did, say, 10 years before. They tracked this back and they found that actually it was coincided with where the BBC Micro kind of phased out. And as a purely selfish move, they wanted people to get really skilled up, they wanted to have good jobs, they wanted people to be able to pay their pensions. So they thought, right, let's play the long-term game and let's introduce this small, low-cost computer into schools and get these people really good by the time they get to A-level, by the time they go through and they come into university, they'll be in a better position. So they intended on building 10,000 to begin with, and then we've just hit, I think, about 2 million now that are out in the wild. Now, this was taken up by the maker movement especially, but lots of people that had previously worked in IT and wanted to explore the possibilities of this low-cost thing. And lots of people took it in, and basically we were completely swamped. So I'm going to leave that there for now, and I'm going to tell you how I ended up at this point, and then I'll track back as to why it was so exciting. So my history is actually, I'm really interested in lens-based media, particularly celluloid. Whilst I was at university, I accidentally built up the second largest pre-digital photographic dealership on eBay UK because I was really into tech and wanted to see all of them. So I thought the best way I could do it was to buy one, sell it on for preferably more money, buy the next cool thing over and over and over again. I was also doing this, I was also really interested in, well, I'm not very good at not being told I can't do something. And one of the things I kept on being told was that I couldn't develop my own colour film at home. Can't be done, it was too complicated. So I started, well, I advertised basically to say to any of the manufacturers, would you send me a kit and I will figure this out. And I had Tennitel come back and send me a kit and go, okay then, we'll see what you can do. And I developed these tutorials where I simultaneously baked things and developed film. And the idea being, if you can follow a recipe, you can develop film. And I got a bit of a reputation for myself. Believe it or not, guys on the internet love a girl with a really big collection of cameras. So I got this following. So took this, and I also happened to buy myself a van. And as I was going around the country, I was buying up basically house clearance auction sales. So when Grandad passes away, Grandad has a really great collection of cameras, and I would be the one that would sit there and buy that collection and then sell it on to the Chinese for much more money. So I took this. Whilst I was doing it, I was quite interested in hacking this technology I was doing it, and I was interested in these really complicated 16mm films, where I would take a shot and I would cover up the camera, take another shot, over and over and again, and then I would wind it back really carefully and then shoot on the image that I hadn't shot on before. And if you've ever come across those like spinning discs where you have like one bird and a cage and you spin it and you see both of them, well, they kind of produce that effect. And I was quite interested in using this technology anyway that people told me I couldn't. And kind of went with that and got reasonably good coverage whilst I was at university. And I also, as I say, got a name for myself with a girl with a van that would go and pick up film equipment. So this happened to be when people were getting rid of all their film equipment in all the professional studios all over the country and were going digital. So I had some very understanding parents that let me keep this equipment in their barn for 3 years. And then I graduated and thought, I graduated from an art degree the year of the recession really hitting. So it was loads of prospects everywhere, obviously. But I decided I would set up a not-for-profit space in my hometown in Norwich. It was called the Soup Lab, and the idea was that I would have a gallery downstairs and my darkroom and my celluloid film lab, which included 6mm and Super 8 film. And then upstairs I would have a cooperative space that people would be able to work in. So this ran for about 2 years, and I was really lucky that it just happened to be, I don't know if anyone remembers, there was a big hoo-ha that Soho was stopping develop Super 8 film. And this was just at the right time, which meant we ended up being the only place in the UK that you could get Super 8 film developed really quickly, otherwise it went off to Germany. So we got quite a lot of press doing that. And I also found that the upstairs space was being used by these developer people that were using these really interesting things called Arduinos. And I was kind of getting exposure from that, and I quite liked, I liked what they were doing. They were doing interesting things, and they were also bringing in money for the rest of the space, which was really awesome. So we were still running gallery shows downstairs, and I was quite interested in bringing this kind of geekery downstairs into the gallery, and how could we kind of merge these two together. So we did a couple of residencies for people, and I was getting more and more kind of anxious to start making again. I don't know if anyone's done an art degree here, and you kind of have a slump when you graduate and you feel completely burnt out. And after like 18 months, I was ready to make something. So I thought, right, I'm going to make a thing that's controlling a garden. And I didn't really know what that was yet, but I was interested in hydroponics, and I thought, right, I'm going to build this thing, and I don't know where to start, and I don't know what the language is. I don't have a glossary, but I know how to do flowcharts. So I built this kind of flowchart system that I was trying to communicate to people. And I was trying to build a spec from that, and I had a very detailed kind of, I wanted it to be 15 minutes watering and this, that, and the other. And I kind of built this up, and I was able to research every part. I'm really obsessive, so I was able to kind of research how each part might work and kind of get this bigger picture of it. And then I felt like it wasn't enough, that it was just going to take care of its garden. What I wanted was, it's just a mock-up of the garden, I wanted it to be a thing that was on the internet and was going to communicate the feelings of the garden. So hence Zoe. So Zoe is in a romantic relationship with her garden, and when things are going well, she overshares on Facebook and Twitter and kind of pushes her relationship into your face. And when things aren't going so well, she does private messages of kind of advice. She's asking for advice on relationship stuff. So this is kind of where I met Raspberry Pi. They had a Facebook post where they said that they were being nominated for a design award and they were looking for examples of work. And I simply put Zoe as one of the kind of picture comments going, this is Zoe, she's got a Raspberry Pi in her. And they sent me an email saying, hey, we haven't seen anything like this before. Can you do a blog post? Which I still haven't done. But I said, hey, you don't seem to have an artist on board. And I still thought they were this huge company that had loads of people, and I couldn't find a creative department at all. They're really interested in really interesting ways of teaching education, but no creative person. And I was like, can we meet up? Because I'm down the road, and by that time I'd been running the venue for a while, and I was kind of ready to give that over to someone else and was up for a new challenge. And we met up, and I managed to charm my way in. By the end of that afternoon, I was able to be their artist in residence. So from that, I then brought in some partners that I knew, and my friends, and was able to build this into a research project. Now, really wanted to do the research project this year, but ended up being flown around to all kinds of tech organisations and tech conferences and things, and were completely immersed in this amazing kind of maker movement, and haven't done enough arts yet, but I'm coming back to it this year. And the idea of this whole series was to build more of these Internet of Things-based artworks that have kind of neurotic personalities and aren't quite comfortable in their code, like they're a bit nervous and uncomfortable. To go with that, basically that's how I joined. And as of last month, I'm now brought in as a creative producer as well. So the idea being that I can get to actually do some of my arts as the artist in resident, and from now on, I'm actually interested in how we can how can we really embed creativity within the Raspberry Pi organisation, and how we can make that part of their kind of day-to-day outreach, actually. So this is one of their aims. And I thought what was really interesting, and the most important part for me, actually, was the fun bit. And trying to come up with ways, especially hard-to-reach groups that are finding it difficult to engage or have decided that teaching isn't for them. I'm absolutely sure that creativity is the way to reach them. And I think actually it's kind of not just me, but the responsibility of the community to come up with some really creative projects that might not be head-on programming, but might be building narratives, and how can we sneak some kind of education into that as well. So I finished there, I'm getting the hand from the back. But really, I wanted to just ask a favour from all of you guys, which is if you're doing really interesting, innovative, creative projects with the Raspberry Pi, please let us know, because we don't hear about it enough. People don't automatically approach the computer manufacturer of the kit they're using, but we would really love to hear about it. And we want to publicise it and show other people, so please do.
Thank you very much. No, well, I'll thank you. So I think it's highly appropriate that we end on a call for action from Rachel. That's very much the ethos that we've heard here in this session. It's about bottom-up engagement, and that means you getting involved. Rachel and Raspberry Pi are keen to hear from you, and you've got an opportunity to get involved in Smart Citizen with us as well. After the break, we move on to critical making. And we've got some visionary speakers asking where now for maker culture? Where do we go with these tools? What do these tools mean for us, for our culture and society? Coffee outside. If you could please join me in thanking our excellent speakers. Thank you.